All right, speaking of the big man, Donald J. Trump has made history again. And not one that will go in the good books. Colorado has banned Trump from running for next year's presidential elections. And this has made him the first candidate ever to be disqualified under the insurrection clause. Now, before we get into the politics, let me tell you about the legality of this. Colorado Supreme Court has used this clause, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which basically means that any act of insurrection can disqualify someone from office. In this case, Trump has been accused of inciting the 2021 Capitol riots. Now, there are three questions mainly central to this clause. First, if Section 3 actually applies to the presidency. Second, whether Trump's behavior before and on the day of the riot actually caused the rebellion. And third, can courts disqualify a person without any action by the Congress? Now, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that the answer to all of these questions is actually a yes. What is also important is that the ruling only mentions the state's primary election, which is slated for the 5th of March. So this ruling does not stop Trump from running in other states. This is absolutely crucial here. The former US president has blamed the Democrats for ruining his reputation in the guise of election interference. Now, Trump's team is going to appeal to the US Supreme Court. Remember, the US Supreme Court is in its most conservative form in almost 90 long years. So there is a strong possibility that Colorado's decision could be overturned in favor of Donald J. Trump. Now, there were similar attempts to kick Trump off the ballot in New Hampshire, Minnesota, and even Michigan, but the courts there failed. Whether Colorado's decision will have a domino effect legally, now that remains to be seen. But political rumblings have already begun. In yet another acknowledgement of Trump's surging popularity, his own rivals inside the Republican camp have slammed Colorado's decision.
I will withdraw, I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot unless and until Trump's name is restored. And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley do the same thing.
What I will say is this. I do not believe Donald Trump should be prevented from being president of the United States by any court. I think he should be prevented from being president of the United States by the voters of this country.
Now, to decode this big development further, we are being joined by Ray Locker, senior journalist and author from Washington, D.C. Mr. Locker, thank you so much for joining us here on WION.
Thanks for having me.
My first question to you is straight. Who do you think is gaining the most from this decision by the Colorado Supreme Court?
Right now, I think it's Trump. It's a propaganda victory for him. I mean, I think legally, the Colorado Supreme Court is on solid ground. I mean, by all indications, Trump did support an insurrection. And this was an amendment that was passed after the U.S. Civil War to keep people who led the Confederacy from seeking elected office in the restored Union. I mean, Trump did lead an insurrection on January 6, 2021. But the main issue here is it has not been proven in court. And that's the main stumbling block. If he was convicted of this crime, then I think it would be easy to say, yeah, he should be off the ballot. But because he has not been convicted, that makes it complicated.
So in that case, do you see the other states following suit?
No, I don't. And I think this is going to be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, and 3 of those justices have been appointed by Trump. Now, I don't think the Supreme Court really wants to weigh into this, because if they do, they set a precedent that says if you have been involved in some type of insurrection, you know, you can run for federal office again. I think what they'll probably do is say the key distinction, which I mentioned before, is whether you have actually been convicted of that crime. And that's, I think, the technicality that they'll hang any kind of ruling on.
Right. Mr. Locker, since you said that this might actually play out in favor of Trump, do you think this will actually unite the supporters of Trump even further?
Well, there's been little that has shaken their support. and his opponents, with the exception of Chris Christie, have been very reluctant to go after him. And I think many people agree with Christie's assessment that he should not be beaten by a court, but he should be beaten by the voters at the ballot box. And really, in the end, that's what it's going to have to take. If you don't want Donald Trump to be president of the United States again, you have to vote against him and vote for whoever's running against him, whether it's in the primary or in the general election in favor of President Biden.
All right, Mr. Locker, thank you so much for speaking with us and decoding U.S. politics for us.
Thanks.